So, what it do? Welcome back to our 7th episode, 6th episode, 10.5, somewhere in that range. Tonight we have on the microphone
DeHoffrin.
Draco, the one and only, of course.
Like secondary. And guest starring
Thor.
Hey! It's a best intro ever right there. Thor? Question mark?
This is what happens when we rehearse things.
I feel like we should edit Ron Burgundy's quote there. Like, damn it, who put the question mark on the teleprompter? So, like always, we're gonna sit around and talk. It's an excuse to talk to our friends and talk to our moms and dads who are the only ones watching our podcast. Not even our own friends watch our podcast. We're finding out, right, Thor?
Yep.
See? And we're also recording video tonight. Yay! DeHoffrin is painstakingly made the background of his room look amazing, and he's sick and tired of no one seeing it. So,
you know what? I think that every time we do a video, DeHoffrin, you should change your background to something different every time.
Well, coming from the guy who doesn't have a video.
I definitely got my green screen. I just gotta start picking out the perfect background for the perfect setting.
Perfect. It's funny was tonight I downloaded a bunch of D&D images to our folder that we normally have running as a slideshow, but fuck it, all that works for nothing. So, like always, we start the show off with a quasi-interesting intro, and then I ask the question, what's been tickling your fancy? Who wants to go first?
Oh, I'll go. Because I've been really, really excited about Venom 2.
Venom 2?
Have y'all seen the trailer for it?
No,
I didn't even know it was coming.
Oh, dude, it's coming out next year. I cannot. Well, I'm sorry. It's coming out this year. It's New Year. I cannot wait for it. Like, I am super excited about this.
So is that like a snake movie or something?
Did you see a snake movie?
Oh.
Oh, no. I know you know Marvel. I know you know who Venom is. There's no way. No way it's a snake movie. I mean, technically, I guess he's kind of like a snake, right? Oh,
yep.
I can't wait. What movies are you guys excited about coming up?
Well, hold on. Before we jump to something else, all you said you was excited about Venom. Tell me, I haven't heard anything about it. What's the premise? Do you have any info about the movie?
All I have is the trailer. You guys gotta go watch the trailer.
What was the trailer? Does it have Carnage? Did it have Spider-Man? Anything, or do it just show Venom?
Is?
Yeah, of course you know who Carnage is. Who doesn't know who Carnage is?
Okay, what's his name?
If you like Carnage.
That's.
That was his real name.
He meant who's the host body to the symbiote.
I don't even know who the host body name is for Venom. I'm just super excited about the movie.
When is that released? When's that coming out?
Oh, I don't know that one. Hold on. It's coming out.
Do you know anything other than the intro? The trailer?
He was so excited about talking about the Venom, and then we asked him, what about it? I don't know.
For something that is the top thing on your list, you really don't know much about it.
Okay. I know it comes out sometime in June. I remember that part. Okay? It's like June something.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and skip Draco because he's excited about a trailer he saw about a week ago and knows nothing about it. All right. Who's next?
I know a little bit about it.
Why don't you go, Chaz? You got anything you want to talk about?
Well, I've always got stuff to talk about. But it's not about me. It's not the Chaz Show. It's the Blood Oyster Cult podcast for our parents and kids when they grow old and say, what was my dad like? They watch it for 5 minutes and go, never mind, click. They'll just know that Uncle Draco, well, it doesn't matter what his name is, Uncle whoever doesn't know anything about trailers.
Not true. Not true. I just got a poor memory.
All right. What I'm excited about is I'm really interested to see what 2021 is going to do with all this craziness around collectibles. I know, we've talked about in the past, The Last Ronin, and how The Last Ronin was something I was really excited about, but it still hasn't come out yet. and it's interesting to see like what are these manufacturers going to do to start like creating more and more. Are they doing this on purpose? Are they just they're not seeing the demand? And like paints, for example, just trying to find paints for my D&D figurines. I use Vallejo. Vallejo's my favorite. And I know they're made in Spain and stuff, but like I'm not a big fan of the Reaper brand. But I'm wondering like what's going to happen with the world of collectibles and hobbies, because Vallejo's getting harder to find. And you're being stuck going to like, instead of like supporting my local game shops like I like to do, which you can tell from the background of my room, I thoroughly do like to support my local game shops. They're getting harder and harder to get stuff in. But needless to say, I'm pushing through because with the pending vaccine coming out and no zombies running around, I am getting prepared for tabletop night to happen again, because this distance crap sucks.
It does.
Yeah, that's an interesting subject, to be honest, because I often wondered that with COVID and how, I mean, Roll20, you see how when we play online, they just can't handle the volume. And Ryan, my son who played with us, he has another group of friends that they ad hocly play when they can, but they used to go over to his house, but they're doing it over Discord. So it's like so many people are forced to go and move their online, their game online. Like I'm wondering if, how many people are going to actually return, in person. I think obviously some will. I want to. I've got a ton of minis and I want to use them. But there are going to be, I think, a certain percentage of people that are going to be like, hey, I like staying home. I like doing this from home and not, and being able to connect to everybody. And with these hobby stores, they've already were holding on to a thread with just, people buying stuff. And that's how they would make some extra money, is that spontaneous purchases that you make when you go down to Dragon's Lair on game night, and they're losing all of that. So my fear is there's going to be a lot more game stores that are not going to be around because they don't have high profit margins as it is. So I don't know. Like it's a little scary, to be honest.
Well, it's interesting because when I was at the game stores today, I talked to a couple of the associates. I asked them, I was like, God, how are you guys doing with, the whole pandemic and stuff? They were actually surprisingly positive about it, going like, we're having a hard time keeping things in stock because everyone's taking up every hobby. Board games are flying off the shelf. Comic books are flying off the shelf. Nothing is just kind of sitting around, unless I picked the Sunshine Lollipops associates today, stuff like that. It literally is. I'm not to like discredit you or not, but I mean, I was worried too. I was legitimately scared. Like, oh God, don't go back to the 90s when there was nothing in the area except for that one lonely place down in Central City.
I have an answer for that though, because I encountered the same thing with Memoir. I was missing some of the expansions for Memoir 44 that I wanted. Online, they were completely sold out. And so Fat Wonkos was the only one that had a couple of the expansions left, and I wiped them out. And so I'm wondering if other people, because I've been looking for Tainted Grail as well, you cannot get it online unless you go to eBay and pay 3 times the amount of money for it. And so your only option is to try to track it down into the local gaming store. So I'm just wondering if, because I've seen that with board games as well, they're flying off the local store shelves, but a lot of those games, you can't get them, like you can't find them online. They're wiped out. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
yeah,
it's like,
that's
it's
been
kind
my
of funny
problem.
was today, I was telling DeHoffren earlier that I bought this 2-pack of D&D minis for the Dragonborn Paladins, and one of them was just a normal, had his little hand up, nothing big deal. But this other one I thought was really cool. It came like with the normal head and everything, right? And I'm painting. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'll start painting them. But there's this thing on the side. I found out it comes with 2 heads. One with a breath weapon and one's not.
Get closer. I can't see it.
Oh, I put it up. Don't worry about it. It's not the point. The point is, I then rushed down today and bought all of them because I was like, I gotta make a red dragon. I gotta make a gold dragon. I gotta make the green, the black. I gotta make all these different dragons. Now, as I'm looking at my D&D mini figures, I'm like, I have no Dragonborns. Oh my God, I need to rectify this. Let's go down to my game shop. Let's just start wiping them out.
Well, it was like when you told me about Nightmare at Wonko's that they had some in stock. I was stuck at home going stir crazy, so I called them up and placed an order, and I wiped them out of all of theirs so that I could start pinning those guys. And I think that's like we guys have been saying is that's what everybody's doing is now that more people are stuck at home, we're back at a stage 5 now, and they have no other thing to do but take up these hobbies. They're not spending money other places anymore that going out and doing this or that. So you have the time, you've got the money. It's if there was a silver lining for the pandemic, it is that it has boosted the mom and pop shops
and Grubhub, because
And
my
Grubhub.
God, I don't
I
know
was gonna say
if a food place doesn't have a curbside pickup, you're garbage. No.
No. The best, again, I don't want to say the best thing of a pandemic because a pandemic is horrible, but there are a bunch of places that me and my family want to eat for dinner, but we're too lazy to go out to the drive-through, and there are none of these places that we can get to deliver unless you pay Uber Eats, which is ridiculously out the nose. But now every place, every fast food restaurant, everybody is now delivering to your home for you. So now we've got, what do you want to eat tonight? Well, what are your options?
Everything.
Everything.
Unless you're a friggin' hobo who lives out in the middle of nowhere.
Hey, it's not my
Draco.
fault, okay? It's not my fault.
Exactly is your fault.
But yeah, and
I
the
did buy my
games
house out
things too. I'll be looking on notifications through my emails about this game pops up and this board game or that, or a puzzle that I want to put together. And all of a sudden I get these notifications and I go to look for it, and all of a sudden it's already sold out everywhere. And then I look and on eBay it's $50 or $60 for a $12 puzzle or $300 for a board game that was just put on the shelf 2 days ago. And
it's crazy. It's crazy.
But
and
I don't.
It's like now that we don't have movies that kind of like drive toy sales. What's going to happen to toys? Because I mean, what was it last like 20 years? It seems like friggin' Avengers. I mean, that's how we base all of our toys off of. I know I'm going through Target, going through the toy section, and my kid's like, "Hey, Dad, can I buy toys?" Like, no, we're spending all our money on this toy for me. You haven't get nothing. What are you gonna do? Play with it? Garbage. We're gonna display it. You know, I mean, it's kind of cool and kind of scary and kind of it's a lot of different emotions. And I every time someone's like, "Well, why don't you go out and go for a hike?" I'm like, "Well, what are you, like a Nazi? No, I'm not gonna go for a hike. I'm gonna stay indoors and play with my toys. Go away, leave me alone."
So, Chaz, do you think that, on your subject, do you think that like Dragon's Lair or these bigger gaming stores, do you think they're going to stick to? Do you think things are going to return to normal? I mean, what's your gut tell you?
My gut tells me they're going to be smart and like they're going to take all the extra earnings they make and not invest in the business. Like, hopefully they're not stupid enough to open like multiple locations. I hope they just stick to the one, stick it in the savings account. The extra money they're making, I mean, they're making money hand over fist. I think they're going to hopefully put that in a savings account for when things go back to normal and people start like the backlash from being stuck at home all day. We're like, okay, now I'm going to go back to traveling and seeing the pyramids of Giza, or I'm going to go out and about and travel and see the stupid big crack in the ground called the Grand Canyon. I truly think that when people have that backlash is going to happen, I think they're going to give up all their hobbies. And then as a collector, you, myself, and kind of DeHoffrin, and definitely not Draco, as he's poor, but definitely see. I think what's going to happen is that we're going to be on eBay waiting for all those people going like, man, I really want to fly to Italy, so I need to sell all those gaming things. We have video. Go away. We have video. They're going to see you. She doesn't get it. I should lock the door. There you are.
Hi, whoever you are.
Every time. Every time. But I really truly think that as a collector, I'm biding my time. I'm going to lay low. I'm going to stop buying a lot of stuff because pretty soon I think people are going to start having to sell their collections, and here I am to gobble it up. And I think those game stores are going to do that. I think they're going to hopefully, please, if you're watching the one person from Dragon's Lair, Save your money. Do not open a second location.
Somebody
Save
tag
it.
Dragon Layers on this video.
Oh, yeah, well, who cares? What are you gonna do? Come find us? I mean, what do we got? Got nothing.
Trademark.
I mean, come find me. Seriously? We'll lock the door next time.
But yeah,
There you are. The internet
save
sees
their
you.
money, and then they buy the stuff off the eBay, and then they sell it in their shops and start turning a profit off of that.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not as concerned as you are, Thor, about people not going back to tabletop. You're going to have a few people, especially there's going to be a bunch of people out there that were able to start connecting with other people by playing on Roll20 that are in other cities and never met before. Now they're stuck at home. They started a campaign, met people up, and obviously they're not going to be able to go back to tabletop because their D&D group is in all different cities. But most part, like our group, I know we're all itching to go back.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. I can't play online. I have no space, and my child runs by and slaps the keyboard, knocks my laptop off. He threw my laptop yesterday. I'm like, Jesus, I need a space.
new child. That's what I would say. New child. Put him
Yeah.
out in the
New
backyard.
child?
But I mean, like, I'll be honest with you. I know Thor and I are kind of like itching or kind of reluctant to buy the Warlock tiles, for example. But I was thinking about it. As I was thinking about kind of like what we're going to talk about in this video, I'm really thinking I'm actually going to grab those Warlock tiles because what happens 6 months from now, everyone's, able to go back to going to game stores and stuff like that. Are the Warlock tiles going to have a resurgence where people are going to buy the crap out of them? Because maybe right now they're not buying them because, hey, what's the point of me buying a couple $100 worth of these tiles and just sitting in a corner of my room not doing anything? Maybe,
Right.
like with D&D books, like 5th edition books, Volo's Guide to Monsters. This alternate cover, well, whatever, it was like $50, right? Now, it's like, what, almost 1,000? Like, what is going on? What are you people doing? So, I know my ADD's kicking in, but I don't know. I think I'm just soaking everything up I can, and I'm waiting for consoles to go down in price, and I want my D&D stuff to go down in price. I want everything to go back down in price. Because
And
So you buy it all and then have it go back up.
well, the problem is like we keep saying that we like, oh, look at how much my collection's worth. And like, are you gonna sell it? Hell no, I'm not gonna sell it.
No.
I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna bury it with me. Look at my kids have it.
It's got so much shit in your tombstone.
Yeah, I mean, not my tombstone. I just want them to board up my. Well, I can't give them to stay in the room when I'm alive. I mean, when I'm dead, they're gonna just keep coming to my room.
They're just gonna keep digging you up.
Just keep coming in
Handing you
here, like,
stuff.
oh, there's this corpse to the computer.
Just reserve a giant crypt and just have everything moved in there, seal it up.
No, I want to haunt one of y'all. Oh, I'm gonna haunt someone.
Oh, make sure it's me.
Nope, not you. Nope. I want
Somebody
to haunt
who's so
someone.
afraid of ghosts, wanting to come back and be one.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely scared of ghost. Yeah, no, ghost. Yeah, nope. Why? But what do you think, Thor? Give me what's your
Scared
opinion?
of ghosts?
About what?
Wow.
What are we talking about here?
Someone's
About
paying
ghosts?
attention. I think he's over there like doing work, just alt tabbing us.
No, I'm listening to you. We bounced between a few subjects. So you asking me what I'm looking forward to next year? Or are you talking to me? You want to know what I think about
What he's
going
gonna be
back
buried
to game
with?
stores?
This is
Or
why
you-
This is why we only have 5
We-
viewers because we bounce.
Yeah, no. He was asking you what are you going to be buried with when you die, and not give to everybody else.
I don't know. Nothing. My dice. I don't know.
I'm not gonna lie. Like I saw a set of dragon dice from the '90s come up on like Facebook Market. I'm like, I remember those.
Dice are the hot thing right now. Like older dice they go for money.
Have
like
you
the
seen
old
the dragon dice
plastic.
I'm talking about?
Mhm, I've seen them. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
see,
seen 'em.
you've seen them, but you don't own them
I think I have some sets of those somewhere floating around.
somewhere.
I was going to say, I'd be surprised if Thor doesn't have one set at least.
I have dice that go back into the 70s. I've got dice I've got a set of dice that was. You might have saw those, Chaz. They were on a display I have where they're made from the olive trees where Jesus walked in Jerusalem, and the tree is over 2,000 years old, and they only allow so much pruning per year because they're considered sacred. They're a relic in the area that he walked, and so that just so happened. So one of the famous dice makers got a hold of some of those fragments and made a set of dice out of them. And I have that set in display. So
see, I
let me
needed
ask you a
that
question.
back in the '90s when all everyone told me I was religious fanatics were telling me how this is a devil's game and blah blah. I was like, I'm using Jesus dice right now. So
If you're using Jesus dice, please tell me they rolled 20s most of the time.
no, Jesus is fair, and he allows all to be all. He doesn't need to have the best of everything. Remember, we've all seen.
I would always laugh. Well, I would always say, hey, if I roll those dice, I always have to make my save.
Let's say again.
Talking about?
Jesus saves and he gets a +4.
Yeah.
No, it's Jesus saves and takes half damage. How many times have I tell you people this?
Yeah.
Saves half damage, because that was the original meme, you know. No. What do you think? What do you think about the game stores? Like, do you think the game stores are shaking a little red booties?
I honestly think that they're not doing as well as you guys think they are. I mean, I know that they're selling stuff. I'm not saying they're not selling stuff, but every time I've been in Wonko's or Dragon's Lair, and I've gone in, several times because I go in and get the collector's books or whatever, I'm like the only one in there. Like I'm it's not full like it used to be. And then they're obviously losing the spontaneous purchases. Like, I cannot tell you when we'd go to Dragon's Lair, be sitting around playing, just there was somebody always at the counter buying something, whether it was dice, minis, paints, a book, or they browsing around because they're waiting for their friends to show up. Like, they're losing all of that. And so, I mean, I buy stuff from them, but so I think there's a loss somewhere, and obviously there is a surgence of playing, with gaming because you're cooped up. But I don't know. I'm seeing sales like Etten Games, which is a really popular gaming store down by Houston. They're really big. And I know some of the guys that own it, like, they're running sales now to try to get rid of stuff because, and I've never seen them run sales. Like, they never run sales on their gaming stuff. And like for the last 2 weeks, it's like 30% off, 50% off. Like, they're advertising on their Facebook page, like, to get rid of it. And if your stuff's flying off the shelves at full price, why would you do that? So I don't know. I mean, maybe some stores are doing better than others. I don't know.
Well, it's doing this for as long as we have. You remember the days when people complain about like a Marvel movie, for example, or some kind of superhero movie. I always go back to that thing of like, do you want to go back to when we had only thing we had was Spawn, that shit movie from the 90s? I mean, enjoy what we have. At least it's better than Spawn. I also
It was a
bad.
good movie.
No, it wasn't. John
wasn't
Leguizamo
that
was the
bad.
only reason that movie was worth watching. By the way,
that
5 people watching our
Swamp
show.
Thing.
Literally,
Swamp Thing.
go on YouTube. Don't listen to Draco. He doesn't even know that movie existed. Literally, go on YouTube. Look up John Leguizamo's Clown. That's the only reason to watch that movie. The rest of the movie is just garbage. Not even fun to make.
I
fun.
was so upset that they did not make a sequel to that.
No, boo.
I was waiting for the second one.
A horrible movie.
That and Super Mario Brothers. I wanted the Super Mario Brothers too.
God, the Koopas didn't even look like a Koopa. Seriously.
You know what? It just occurred to me talking about that gaming. So, another thing that just hit me. I've heard, and I don't know how much truth this is, but I've heard that most of their money actually comes from Magic. And I'm wondering with COVID how Magic's doing. Now, you got your collectors that are going to keep buying cards to collect, and I know they have an online Magic, but they don't have like a Roll20. You use the physical book, physical cards to do. So I'm wondering if that had an impact on card sales.
They do have it. I have a couple of friends that keep up with Magic more than I do. I used to play Magic like crazy, and I'd go to the gaming stores, and the buy-in for that, and you're stuck there, and while you're there, you buy the other cards, and you're right, it's the impulse while you're there during the competitions,
tournaments, right?
tournaments. But they do. They set up. A lot of people have been setting up their cameras and doing the shadow box, putting it on, and that's how they're playing. So the other person can see yours, and you'd be able to see theirs on the screen.
Okay.
Well, I know.
And they've been playing in real time.
I know with Pokemon, there's an online card game. I'm assuming Magic is the same thing, where you open up a booster pack of Pokemon cards, you get a special card that's got like a QR code and a digit and a long digit code. You type that into their program, which is an app, and literally you get another booster deck in the card game. So you get 2 booster decks for the price of one digitally and one physically. And then literally the digital ones, what you play the digital cards with and stuff like that. So
that's cool.
I mean, it's forcing developers to like come up with a way of how do we create digital and create the physical, because we're not going to be stuck in our houses the rest of our lives. I mean, COVID won't stop us from being people. Humans will find a way, sure. Like Ian Malcolm said, life will find a way. But I think companies are being forced
some
to
Jurassic
adapt.
Park going on there.
What's that, Draco?
Said you got some Jurassic Park quotes going on there, huh?
Yes, I do. So, I mean, I really truly think
Thank
that's...
you, Captain Obvious.
What's that?
You're welcome. You're welcome, Chuck. You're welcome.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So
the offering. Sorry, my bad.
I think literally we've established where we're at. It's no big deal. But I think the companies are going to have to really adapt to that. I think the companies are going to have to adapt to do that. Like, I know all these businesses mom and pops are crying out, COVID, go away. We need our money back. It's like, no, you need to adapt. I'm sorry. That's capitalism. Adapt or die. That's how it is. So in the realm of collectibles, gaming, D&D, I'm hoping these game stores are adapting. I hope they're being smart about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I was just thinking about it. I'd actually like to learn to play Magic. I remember about like 30 years ago, I bought 2 decks when I was back in 6th grade. Back when you bullied me. Back in 6th grade.
That'd be 20 years ago, not 30.
That's what. No, we were 18 20 years ago. That was high school. Like 25 years ago.
10 years from now would be 8. In 6th grade,
yeah, that's closer to 6th. That's closer to 6th grade than 18.
Go ahead. Finish your thought.
At the point. Okay. So I bought 2 decks of Magic cards. I had no one ever to play with, so I just sat them around. I actually found them the other day, just sitting around in my old little chest of memories. I was like, man, I gotta find someone to play Magic with.
Did you have Black Lotus card?
Well, I would go through those and pull your rares out, because some of those, if they're from 25 years ago, you could have some serious money cards if you got like a Mox or a Time Walk or a Black Lotus or
you've got
Chaos Orb or something.
You've got nothing of value. 20 years ago, those were just that was the bad year, Draco. In fact, I'll come over there and just take them off your hands.
I remember, hold on, back under nostalgia. I remember me and Chaz were just buying up X-Men cards just to get the whole set, and we finally got it. I was missing like 2 cards, and he has them all. We're super excited. 30 years later, they're worth nothing, not even a penny.
Well, they're worth a penny, but yeah, you can go online and find all of them, because it was a bad business model where they said, like, here's a comic book card, here's the powers of the comic book character. You're like, cool. Is there a story behind this? No. What's the point of me buying the next one? Piece of art. Like, well, this new thing called internet, I can just Google search. Don't do that. Or Yahoo search, don't do that. I mean, but
my old Star Trek cards, I got a bunch of those too.
Yeah, it's garbage. I mean, it's interesting to kind of see the world of collectibles. Kind of like, I love how everyone's buying everything, thinking it's gonna be collectible, and someone who's they're one of the target audience people are looking at. I'm like, I want to look at them when they're buying them and hoarding them. Going, we're not gonna buy that like 20 years from now. Just an FYI. So put it back on the shelf so we can have it now, because by the next time I'm not gonna want it. The whole point of like video games being nostalgic was we played them as a kid, but if you're buying all the frickin' games now, can't play them, there's no nostalgia. It's like I'm taking crazy pills.
I actually only have one collectible. I only have one.
What is your one collectible?
I was back in the day when Star Trek: The Next Generation was the big thing. I was really obsessed with Data. So one Christmas, my parents went and got me a figurine of Data. It's still in its packaging. Now the package is all busted up, but the Data's still in the package. But it's crushed in my chest of memories. I was going through it yesterday. I was like, I actually have one collectible. I can talk about collectibles now. I have one.
You know what's funny is the collectible guys are like, wait, the box is crushed. It's garbage.
Yeah. You just lost a lot of value when you crushed the box.
Don't look up how much money you lost in the box being crushed.
But hey, I have it in the original packaging. Even though it's crushed, but it's still there. And the Data's in pristine condition. Never been touched.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, I got one I can talk about.
Wish we could see your face right now when you look up the value on eBay. If you could just go take a picture or screenshot that'd be funny.
Yeah, how much is this worth? 10 cents, thank you.
Yeah, look up inbox and look up out of box and see.
What about half in, half out box? So
yeah.
In the box is just crushed box.
Let's talk about a new subject. I want to talk about. I was thinking about what Thor was talking about earlier. Thor, what's the subject you wanted to bring up?
Well, it's kind of along the same lines of these collectibles that you guys are talking about. I have I've been collecting D&D and role-playing games for many, many years. And, I've been playing D&D since 1979, so I'm kind of dating myself.
Yeah, you are.
So, it's always been a love. I've been hooked on it. And, I've been collecting for years and years and years. And I just, I like to look at a big, full bookshelves and seeing all the stuff and reminiscing and go through the old modules and adventures and books that just bring back so many memories. And just doing it over so many years, I've acquired like tons and tons of things, and I just kept them. And a lot of them still in original, like shrink wrap, never been opened, never been touched. I have a tendency to buy two of everything, as some of you guys know. And so one's a play copy, one's a collectible copy. And
one's just in case.
Just in case. And you just have the weirdest things. I actually grabbed just a handful of things just to kind of show. I've got stuff in boxes that I still have to go through. And I've got a bunch of my stuff on my shelves that I've shown pictures of. But I guess I could kind of, do you want me just to run through some of the things I have?
What you got.
Yeah, yes, we want to see.
Okay, well, I got a few of them. So, and I'll give you a little backstory. So this right here, it might be kind of hard to see. It's black with like gold lettering. It's called Palace of the Silver Princess. This was a module that was published in 1976. So it's really old. It's actually the first adventure ever created. It was created by a company called We Warriors that's been out of business since like 1980 or 1981. The thought process when Dungeons & Dragons was first created, when Gary Gygax was inventing the game, is the DM is the creator. And, he knew you needed the rule books to get the information and the inspiration for the rules and everything. But his grandiose idea was that the DM would create his own world. Like they wouldn't need these adventures, so to speak, to run players through. The DM would want to create them. So the creators of We Warriors thought completely different. They formed this company, created this adventure. There are not very many copy of these that even exist because it's so old and it was so early on, people weren't really buying them. Not a lot of people played D&D back then. As a matter of fact, there was only 1,000 copies of Dungeons & Dragons floating around in the world at that point. And so this here was created by them and started to be sold out. They started to sell it. They did it like selling out of the back of their truck. Eventually, TSR got wind of it and helped them start distributing some of these, and also later printings. This is actually a first printing. It's in mint condition. And it is only been opened once.
I think you're holding the value of a car right now in your hands.
I honestly don't know what this is worth, to be honest. You rarely see these things come up. When you do, they're either, not complete, or they're in bad condition, or they're missing things or whatever. So anyway, so that's one of my little prides and joys that I got many years ago.
I had a question for you about that real fast, if you don't mind. So
sure, go
have
ahead.
you found a PDF of that by chance, or a scanned version of it?
I haven't looked, to be honest. There might be one out there. Somebody may have scanned one at one point. I could look around and send it to you. But
well, no. The question I'm asking you is like, so from a DM standpoint, from a person who likes to create content, and Dahafren right there, playing his campaigns. What if you can't? Let's say you don't find the PDF. Let's just say hypothetically, Imagination Land, you don't find the PDF. And what would that be the catalyst for you to maybe bring it out, scan it, and then like I guess like publish it or put it out there to create content for your people in your life, or maybe put it on the internet so it doesn't die off forever? Like, God forbid something bad happens to it.
Yeah, it's actually a good question. So a company, and I forget the company name escapes me. They did a reprint of that. So it came out, I want to say about 6 or 7 years ago, and it's a reprint, but it's bound. So that's actually a folder. What I showed you is like a peachy, kind of opens up, and all the sheets are individual and they're in there. But they did do a reprint. That I have as well. I have a mint copy of that, and then I also have a play copy. So, when I first got it, I looked through it, obviously, and read it and looked at it and put it away. But then I also picked up the reprints just so I could run it and have fun with it or whatever. So I do like to use the stuff that I buy if I possibly can, because I don't want to just buy it and not use it. So hence why I buy 2 copies of everything if I can get a hold of it, because I want to play. Yeah, I want to use Tasha's if it comes out. I don't want to just buy a collector's copy and stick it away and go, I don't know anything about this, but here, look, I have it. So I try to get a hold of multiple copies. So
those older modules, like for example, I think second edition, I think Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, first edition, I think they were better stories than for say most of the modules being come out now in fifth edition. Like, I think you guys know my favorite module is Tomb of Annihilation. It's one of my favorites I've ever created. Yeah. But I mean, I'm as I go like half price books, these thrift stores, I find these old like 4th edition, 3.5. I've got the greatest dungeon ever created. That big giant book. It's great because inspiration as a DM. Like, how do I bring back some of those old great storytellings? Because how many times can my players start off in the tavern? I know. Here pretty soon, Dahafren's figurines will be coming in, and every time we play with Dahafren, it's going to be you start off in a tavern. Well, we want to leave. You can't. You have to stay in this tavern. I went broke because of y'all.
not just stay in this tavern. It's the tavern.
The yawning
portal. So it's not just staying in here and talking. You're going down into the portal.
Yeah.
So that's good. What else you got?
But hold on. So sorry. This is a learning thing for me. Not being as just newer to D&D than you guys were. I just assumed that when D&D first came out that there was always modules and campaign stories.
It came relatively quick when We Warriors produced that, and they also produced Dwarven Glory, which is another one, which was their second module. I have that as well. It's actually still on my shelf, but they created those 2, and that was sort of the catalyst for Gary to say, "Oh, some DMs don't have the time or don't want to," and so then they started creating, adventures at that point. And one of the very first they ever did was the Giant series for AD&D. They're one of the first series of adventures created.
Well, how did people before modules came out? Because for me, trying to come up with an idea and a system for people to play in as a DM, I would need some sort of basis, or when I do it, it's going to be based off of the experience I had of other stories and campaigns that I've gone through. For when it first came out, how did people create and know what to do, basically?
It's a good question. So D&D is very different. Like the philosophy around D&D today is very different when I first started. And when I first started, what was the catalyst to get you into D&D is say, hey, did you watch that Conan movie? Or did you see Robin Hood? Well, me as a DM, I can create that and you can play in it. So you can be Little John or be part of Robin Hood's group, or you could be the guy trying to hunt down Conan as he's slaughtering everybody, or Jason and the Argonauts as you're trying to get to destroy the Titan and go get the Medusa. Or so a lot of these folklore stories was like a treasure chest that you could pull from, or any novel, any fantasy novel was inspiration. So I used to go out and get fantasy novels and read these old fantasy novels to try to get inspiration for adventures and create, like, running set adventures. I have done that far less than creating my own stuff. I know we're going through Odyssey, but in our home stuff, but 90% of my DMing experience is creating my own NPCs, my own stuff. Now I may put it in the Forgotten Realms or in much older Greyhawk or Dragonlance back in the day, but so they gave you sort of the foundation of, this is a city, these are the popular people, these are the laws, this is what's going on. But the actual adventure encounters, that was up to me to create. And so I would spin the tale of, you're starting in a small town and your father's missing, what do you guys want to do? And it would go from there. And so that's typically how it used to be. Now it's very
the insurance money
structured and all that stuff. So it's changed.
And how hard was it for you not to get tripped up by your party by not going off in some other way that you didn't have planned? Normally in campaigns, they have everything set for if this happens, if that happens. You create something and all of a sudden...
It's a good question. So in a lot, even the adventures you can run into that. Like they have these sort of things that go on, and the players can go, I'm in my trail, screw that bitch. I'm going to go I want to head north and just take off, right? And so typically that's when you'll have either set encounters, random encounters, or things that will happen. Some DMs try to keep it very railroady, and they will try to steer you back into the main storyline they spent so much time creating. I don't like doing that because good players will smell that they're being railroaded and they lose that freedom to kind of go, I just want to change what I'm doing. And so a lot of times I will feed off of what my players would do for the next session. So I may have this idea they're going to go and rob the bank and they heard this rumor and they're going to go run on it, and then they won't. Well, then I always have backup encounters or just random things, like typically 1 or 2 sea encounters, a desert encounter, a forest encounter, a road encounter. And then if the players go off in some random direction, they just go, fuck this bitch, we're out of here, and they go off, I would just pull from one of those, and then it'll work. And then on the next session, I'll be like, wow, that was really cool where they went. They decided to go run through the desert rather than going to Antarctica. So I got a great idea. So I would play off of, for the next session, I'd build the adventure sort of like a paved road as you guys walk down it.
I think the thing what it did was, for me as a DM in my groups, it forced me to be more creative. It forced us, kind of like you can't remember your spouse's phone number right now because it's in your phone. You just click their name and boom, you're there. Versus back in the 90s, pre-2000s, you have to remember everyone's phone number. You remembered it. You still remember the phone number from back when you were a little kid and stuff like that.
Right.
As a D&D DM back in the 90s and the early 2000s, the modules weren't coming out because they were so busy focused on the mechanics. I mean, you're talking 3.5, for example, is just a library of books. Even though it had not a long run, it had a pretty decent sized run. But in that short period of time, the amount of books were just like ridiculous. And the thing was they were so busy focusing on the mechanics of the game to let everyone still play the homebrews, that they never modulized it. So you might have people who want to play D&D, but no one wants to be the DM because the DM's like, I guess you're starting in a tavern again, or the player's like, oh god, we're playing Willow again. We don't want to play Willow. We've seen the movie, we've played the module twice. Come on, let's play something else. And then you have wizards and Wizards really backing up things like the RPGA back in the early 2000s, and Now it's called the Adventures League. I mean, they're encouraging the creative people to write these paperback modules and online DM's Guild. There you go. DM's Guild could be a guideline for you. Like, here's the written out version of your favorite Disney movie. Now go make a D&D session out of it and stuff like that.
Chuck, and just to kind of,
it was really hard. You have players who, the worst when you had a player who was a lot smarter than you.
Yeah,
and I'm not talking about mechanics. I'm talking about like physically smarter than you. Like their vocab, like the worst was the 8 charisma barbarian in the game, but the character who's playing him is a silver-tongued mother trucker. You're like, wait, your character wouldn't be able to talk like that. You wouldn't be a smooth talker because you're a stupid barbarian. You're illiterate. But in real life, you can out-talk me. Or you might have a person who has an 8 intelligence doing the Pythagorean theorem on the map next to you to show you that you can actually hit the guy who's flying, from the distance away. And you're like, there's no way you know that. There's no way you're going to be able to know that you're going to hit him because you have an 8 intelligence. So as a DM, the hardest part was like you have the smarter people, higher education, whatever it might be, but then you also have the people who've seen every movie you have. So when you try to base off a movie or a book, they go, "Oh, I know what's about to happen." You're like, "God damn it, stop it!"
Like that one time.
Oh yeah, I thought it'd be funny to make them run them through the Adventures of Hercules, the animated series. And the one time Draco was actually paying attention, minutes into the session, he turns around, looks at me, and goes, "We're playing Hercules." I'm like, damn it! No one else got it. Nobody else but Draco. The one time I needed him to be quiet, the one time I needed him to be Draco, nope. And he's like, "We're playing Hercules," and they all turned and looked at me and said, "Oh my God, this is Hercules. This is dumb." Like, it wasn't dumb. It was a brilliant idea.
It was I was having fun. I enjoyed it.
No, I'll tell you the only thing that sucks about like DMing now versus then, I feel like I'm a better DM now than I was then. And I feel like I have a lot more to offer now as a DM, but I have less free time because my family won't even leave me alone because apparently they like me. And I want them to go away so I can DM more and do these cool events I have in my mind. But first world problems,
Oh, I have a question for you, Thor.
Sure.
What edition is your favorite edition and why?
Oh, it's a good question, and it's an easy answer for me. Basic D&D is my favorite, all-time favorite. And there are several reasons why basic D&D, well, kind of back up on the editions if you even know the difference between all these. But when they came out with OD&D, which is the original D&D, and that was the brown box that Gary Gygax created. And he assembled it in his kitchen. Only 1,000 copies of those were created. And he hand assembled them. That was a catalyst for D&D. After that had come out, that was sort of they came out with a few versions of it, some tweaks to it, but that was OD&D. And to give you an example of how they had halflings in it, and then they were sued by Token, and they had to remove halflings, and Ents were in there, and so then they changed them to tree Ents so that they didn't copyright. All weapons did D6 damage. It didn't matter what weapon you did; it was all the same damage. All of the rules was in a pamphlet. It was in a small little booklet. Actually, it was 3 little booklets. One had monsters, one had like a character, and one was like a DM thing. But all the pages, very little rules. It was meant to be sort of theater of the mind. That's what Gary always wanted. Let the DM create his world. Here's a little tool set. Well, from that, they spawned 2 editions. Advanced D&D, or what you may hear is first edition, and then Basic. Now, Basic is, when it first came out, it was meant to be sort of a stepping stone to get you into Advanced, because Advanced had many more rules that they started adding to the system. But Basic had a few iterations that they did, and what's called the Menser set is my all-time favorite. And the Menser set was done by Frank Menser, early TSR guy back in the day. I actually know him. I know him pretty well. He created a set of basic rule sets that took you from first level all the way until you were a god. So it was the one edition that allowed you to become immortal. and they actually put in rule sets for once you are a god and when people start worshiping your character. And along that way, in that same system, they put in a weapon mastery system that, in my opinion, is the best that D&D's ever had. And so what it is your weapons would sort of scale with you. So say you picked up you start at first level with a dagger, and your dagger does 1d4 damage. As you level up, you get weapon skill points that you can use to either improve on a weapon you already know or learn a new weapon. And as that weapon would go up with you, you may get 2 attacks with it, 3 attacks with it, crit with a 19 to 20. When you crit, it could do quadruple damage. You could disarm a person if you roll a 17 through 20. Like, the abilities of the dagger would now go from 1d4, and if you're a 20, 28, 35th, 40th level character, because there wasn't a level 20 limit, you were like crazy good with that dagger. And so then if you got a magic one, it would even be more so. So there were several little rules like that I felt was really cool about that edition. And to be able to run your character, not stop at that ceiling of 20th level, you start getting to where you're really hooked on your character, your 15th, 18th, 20th level, and then all of a sudden, that's it. No more progress. You're kind of stuck. And where basic, you would keep going, and then you would have to go on this, what's called an epic quest, once you hit a certain point, to go towards immortality. And that was its own massive epic quest that you would go on until you achieved it. So I love that edition.
What about you, Draco? What was your favorite edition?
Honestly, my favorite edition was 4th edition. Because it was very, very streamlined. Everyone thinks it's the worst one. I got that.
There goes all of our viewers.
Okay? But let me tell you why I like it, though. I'm all about hack and slash. I like the aspect of roleplay, but when we usually play our campaigns, there's not much roleplay. Until recently, when you added it in here, our whole life has always been hack and slash. So when we got to 4th edition, it's what it was. You dungeon crawled, you found treasure, you equipped yourself, you went and killed something. There was none of this, I am the mighty god of blah, 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 and I will smite thee in Ragnarania. None of that stuff. No, it was just bad guy, smash. Simple, streamlined, easy.
That's my fault, by the way, guys. Sorry about that.
It's okay. It's just how we played. That's how I got into it. When we were sitting in what was it, 8th grade on the bus, it was 9th grade on the bus when you and Alan were like, hey, you got to play this game with us. And I was like, what's this? And I created a halfling, and it was a rogue, and his name was Haplo. That was my first character I ever made. And I loved that guy. And ever since then, we've just killed countless creatures. There was never any, it wasn't very much riddles. There wasn't very much, I mean, sure, other people have that, but we didn't have that. It was just straight, TJ, there's a ruby. If you put a ruby in front of me, I was going to leave the party to go get the ruby, and I was probably going to die trying to get the ruby by myself.
At 38 years old, he still has the same problem. You put a ruby in front of him, he will attack. He will.
I have a thing for rubies. I don't know what it is, but they put rubies in the game, and I'll say to my NP, to the character, hey, I want that ruby. I'll give you the 50 gold pieces for it. And if they don't give it to me, I offer the gold value for it. I either steal it or I attack them for it. It's my character's flaw, right? It's my ruby. I want it. I'm obsessed with it. Like Golem in the Ring. That's my thing.
Draco's views may not necessarily represent all the views of the Oyster Cult.
He put a little. There's your.
All right, Dahafra, what's your favorite? What's your favorite edition?
My favorite edition is 5.0. Like I said before, I was late to the game, and I started off with 3.5, which was great. But honestly, it was a little bit harder for me to understand and keep track of everything. 5.0 just made everything, like a little light bulb went off and clicked. Like, oh, okay, this is how that works. This is what's going on. And it just made it where I understand it more. I struggle sometimes during our games, but not as much as I did with 3.5.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that, because I think there's a lot of nostalgia on when you start, like what you play, what was your edition that kept you, that feels good. I mean, D&D in general has changed. Every edition has changed so much. like the early editions, there were not very many rules. There were just a few guidelines, and a lot of the old DMs, like I go to a lot of the old conventions, a lot of the DMs that have been DMing for years and years and years, decades, they're intimidated by 3.5 and later editions because 3.5 was a sort of a turning point with rules. Now 5.0 definitely streamlined a lot of that and got rid of a lot of the crappy stuff. But ever when Gary was alive, Gary Gagas was alive, like he was against, even second edition, there was a lot of internal fighting within TSR because he wanted to keep the rule sets down. He didn't want a lot of rules. And when 3.5 came out, he was livid. He said, you destroyed my game because he didn't want the game to slow down. It was meant to be theater of the mind. And if you were reaching for a book during gameplay, that was a big no-no to him. Like he wanted the story to continue. His analogy was watch Lord of the Rings and every 20 minutes hit the pause button for 5 minutes and tell me how much you like that movie. Like that was an analogy. And so he wanted the story to keep going, and because you're reading the book, but you're actually playing it. You're in the book. You're in the novel and playing it out. But if you have to pause that, it disrupts the involvement so he was a big advocate against it. Whether it was right or wrong, that was the vision he had. So the early editions were much easier, much quicker to get into. I could pick up any of the old editions and just run with them very easily because I played them so much in the year, back in the day. But because the rule sets are so light, you don't have to look a lot of stuff up. It's really easy to remember. Most of your stuff's on the DM screen, so it's not hard at all.
So my answer, because no one's going to ask me, answer of my favorite D&D, because I've been playing for a couple days too, Thor. No, my answer is more of a hippie answer, more of a kumbaya. I think the best version of D&D is the best version of suits you. Suits you as a person. Draco, for example, is a hack and slash. The guy is. He's my best friend at my wedding. I was best man at his wedding, that kind of thing. I mean, literally, I love playing D&D with the guy. I love DMing for him. But in a sense of when you try to put him in second edition, the guy flopped. He couldn't do it because it was so much theater of the mind, and he's so wrapped up in so many things going on in his head and going on the board that he lost track of everything, and players lost track. And then what I thought was going on in my mind, they were struggling with because they're like, well, no, you said the elephant was going over here, and I said, no, I said over here. Then we got in that aspect, and then I want to do these weird things like what's the DC, what's the save. It was really hard for the group of growing up with to do second edition. And then when we got to 3.5 and put the rules to everything, it made them actually like to play D&D. They actually enjoyed it. And then when 4th edition came out, that was like the best for him because he's not good at role playing. He doesn't remember, like he said, I watched the trailer for that movie. What was it about? I have no idea. It's Venom 2. Well, who's this? Who's that? I don't know. It's Venom 2, guys. Don't worry about it. I mean, with 4th edition, you could do that. You had powers. You have a spell book. You have this. You have that. It was a video game. It was a video game D&D, which was perfect for him. And then with 5th edition, I think it's great to link old school with new school. That one. That way. There you go. That way. With new school, because in 5th edition, you have the great storytelling of the older editions, and then you have the newer stuff like cantrips. The other day, I was talking to a friend who said, every edition had cantrips. No, you had 0 level spells. They did 1d3 damage. Excuse me while I don't give a shit about that damage, right? I mean, you couldn't even do prestidigitation at 0 level. It was a 1st level spell. And if a friggin' sorcerer was like, I do prestidigitation, the entire party looked at that person, Dahofrin, and say, you're a sorcerer and you pick prestidigitation, get the fuck out. Just get the fuck out of our party. You're useless. Get out of here. I say the best form of D&D is whatever the group you're in, whatever group you enjoy being around. That's the D&D they want. So I would challenge people, Dahofrin, to read the older editions. Read them. Learn them. If it's not your thing, like go play Baldur's Gate, the original. If you think Baldur's Gate, the original game, sucks, Second edition is not for you.
Pools of Radiance. Oh, good game.
I gotta tell you too. I mean, I played all the editions and I've spent years playing through all of them. It really just comes down to the people you're playing with and the story that you're in. Because the rule set is just a set of mechanics, and it seemed like and I love fifth edition. It's probably my third favorite of all five, but
like 5 editions is like your third out of 5.
Yeah,
that means it's garbage.
Well, it's 3. It's still not bad.
What's number 2?
Advanced D&D first edition.
God bless.
Yep.
We did leave the 80s.
Yeah.
Nope.
Here's the thing. Like, I watched it evolve because, like, when you're playing D&D, as soon as they started adding more rules, right? So the earlier editions didn't have a lot of rules. So when the DM said, "Hey, do this, do that, do this," and then this is what it is. You know how they always say that the golden rule is the DM's always right. That's been they've said that saying since the beginning of time, but it's lost that power through the years. And what I mean by that is you can still say that the DM's always right or whatever, but as they added more rules, it brought more rule lawyers to the table. And so as you would play, you would say, the DM would say, "Hey, let's do this, do that." And then a player would go, "That's not what this says in this book. I've got the Fiend Folio from second edition, and right here it says this." And then once they started adding more rules, I would notice the games I would run, there would be more sort of rule arguing that would go on. And sometimes it would be just interpretation of the rule. Like, I would know the rule. Like, I remember it. I would do it, and then another player knew the rule, but or some of the earlier writings didn't cover every situation. So then there would be this sort of argument. Well, it says this. Yeah, it says that, but that doesn't mean when you're underwater it's the same. Like, there would be that sort of back and forth. And so as soon as it went in print, it all of a sudden started to become more of a game delay, right?
Yeah.
And I don't say it's wrong, because to some DMs they needed that. Like, some groups they need, like, how do I handle underwater? I don't. How long can somebody hold their breath? Like these, or if I want to attack while I'm on a horse and this guy's on the ground, do I get a bonus? Like, will I get thrown off? Like, they don't. Some DMs needed the help. They didn't want to try to come up with a rule or a saying right on the spot. So because of that, they put those rules in. But then it added conflict and slowed down the game. Now, 5th edition, why I say it's my third favorite, is that I think they did a really good job covering the rules. Like, they covered a lot of situations, even the ad hoc things, to try to eliminate the table arguments that went on with 3.5. And so I think that was an improvement. But just the fact that the rule's there, it does have a tendency to kind of slow things down. And we've had it in our games. What is that rule? Let me look it up. Let me stop. We all stop. We're all online, Googling, how does this work? How does that happen? And so that has a tendency to slow it down. I think all the editions have their own place. I agree with you, Ches. I think that whatever is your thing or whatever, but that's just my take, just through all the editions. So.
No, you're dead on. I think you're absolutely dead on. I mean, we get to the point where I think there's a lot. One of the big things for me, we had a DM who was, lack of a better term, egotistical, where he always had to be right. He always had to be right. And even though he would contradict himself, because like he would set up a homebrew rule, and then we would go around him. That was that whole players being smarter. We go around his rule. He would go against his rule. And we're like, well, you just said we couldn't do that. It's like, yeah, well, I'm doing it anyways. He took advantage of the DM's always right, and he took it too far where we couldn't have fun. So I get what you're saying on the main thing of like every 5 minutes, every 20 minutes, you're in the rule book, But that also kept a lot of DMs at bay, where it's like, no, it says it right here, man. You can't do that. Stop being a jerk. Just because we undid your counter, like. I know I've set up some really intricate storylines for y'all, and then one of y'all did something. I can't remember what it was. One player, I had these zombies going after him. He was like, cool, control undead. I'm like, they're alchematic zombies. And he looked at me and goes, damn it. And I was like, oh my God, that was close. That was close. Shit, or the spell I hate the most, locate object, You know, like, well, can you describe the object to me? Oh, yeah, it looks like this, this, this. Can I get an intricate detail, maybe a picture of it? Oh, yeah, that's what it looks like. Perfect. Locate object. God damn it! You know, it just, there comes a point when, you know, as a DM, you're like, I'm not being a jerk. I'm going to say, locate object doesn't work. You know, just, it doesn't
Yeah,
work.
but even then, like I've played in those campaigns too, where a DM is really like determined. He's a right fighter and he doesn't care what the rules say. And you go, well, here. I mean, I've been in that situation and in groups. They fall back on the DM's always right. I don't care what it says. So in the end, they're still doing what they want to do. But then and I've seen that happen several times. So I don't know. I've seen the evolution, and I'm not saying, you know, but I love the older editions simply because we do not, like, I have a AD&D campaign I was running with Ryan and my other son. We ran it for about 3 years, and you know how Ryan is. Like, he knows every freaking rule there is, and that's he's just book smart. Well, in AD&D, there's no stopping the game. Like, we just keep going, and it just rolls. And if you ask him what's his favorite edition, he'll tell you it's AD&D. He has a 30-something level anti-paladin in that group, and he has that big poster on the wall in our room is from that. And it's because that memory and that story where they went into hell and they went through all this, like, it's like a book he read, and it's really ingrained in his mind, and he loves it. And so everybody's different. Every game's different. Every DM's different. Players can disrupt things. It's just my personal take.
Go on to GOG.com. They have all the SSI books. If you don't know what SSI is, it's a production company that made D&D video games, all right, for the PC. They're gold boxes. I don't know if you've collected the gold boxes, Thor.
No, but I've had them, and I never collected them, but I had them.
Yeah, if you go back and go back and play them, like one of your I don't know, have you ever played Castle Ravenloft, D'Hoffren?
No.
Do you know what we're talking about, Castle Ravenloft?
Of course not.
So that might be something that you get into because you're very theatrical. You like to have the theatrics of the game. You like the French Quarter. Like, what is that?
How dare you, sir?
Oh, exactly.
How dare you?
Exactly. But Castle Ravenloft with Strahd as the head vampire or something like that. SSI has Castle Ravenloft. I think is one of the second best modules I've ever seen was anything to do with Castle Ravenloft. I mean, I hear people, Curse of Strahd 5th edition, they'll run just Castle Ravenloft by itself, just the castle portion, because it's so well written, so well done. But I have played 2nd edition where you had no level cap. You went as far as you wanted. A human can be whatever level they want. And that was like the reason why humans had no special advantages in 2nd edition, but they had one. I had no level cap. I could play whatever class I want and no level cap. So, well,
yep.
I know it's hard to believe, guys, but we've been going for an hour now. And this is about the time we cut off. So for the new guy, Thor, how we cut off is we all get a little spiel because I learned the hard way. I did a sign off, and then Draco and D'Hoffren just kept going for the next 20 minutes. So I'm going to let D'Hoffren give a perfect example of how he signs off.
All right, Cher, if you're listening, I love you. I would love to meet you. If anybody knows Cher or how I can reach her, please hit me up and let me know. I'm still waiting to meet her, get her to sign me on my body so I can get it tattooed, and her to slap me in the face.
And?
Oh, and watch Julie and the Phantoms on Netflix. Or keep it running in the background.
There's a dead music family that only can be seen by that one girl.
Yes, it's not a family. It's a group of guys that died.
You lost
and
me.
Only she can see them.
But you lost me at Ghost. But my 9-year-old loves that show, and she agrees with you. She wants the 2nd season.
Right. I want a 2nd season, so I'm trying to get as many people. Like I said, just put it on Netflix, let it run, just so that it gets a view. You can go off into another room and do something else, but just get the views for it.
Yep.
We need a 2nd season.
I want a 2nd season of Tiger King, but you don't see me complaining.
Yeah, well, I'm waiting on the 2nd season of The Witcher, okay?
Who wants The Witcher?
Yeah.
All right,
Dude, I love
Draco.
The
How
Witcher.
do you
Everybody
want
wants
to
The
sign
Witcher.
off?
If I could have another season of him sleeping or swimming in a bathtub, I'll give it to
Oh
me.
my
Speaking
god!
of The Witcher, it was
This is a family program.
extremely disappointing season 1. Okay, The
Really?
Witcher is a monster hunter, and there was like one episode he actually hunted a monster, but you didn't see anything. So disappointing. So the next season, it better be him hunting monsters because he's a monster hunter.
Hey, correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm
Is
just
there a
saying.
movie coming out with Mila Jovovich called Monster Hunter?
Yeah, but that's based off of the video game, not Geralt. Not
What is Witcher
Geralt,
based off of?
Geralt. Okay? No.
The
First
views
off,
of
Geralt?
Draco do not necessarily represent the views of this podcast.
No, you stop it. Monster Hunter. First off, Mila Jovovich is amazing. Okay, it'll be a decent show.
No,
Have you
she
played
is.
Monster Hunter? Have you played the game Monster Hunter?
Yes, it's garbage.
It's not a great game, and now they're making a movie about it. Okay, all right.
All right,
just
what'd you
saying.
sign off?
All right. My sign up is I am the one and the only Draco. Blah blah blah. Make sure you only watch The Witcher season 2 when it comes out, and if they don't have monster hunting, someone needs to say to Netflix, put monster hunting in this. That's it. I'm good. Oh,
Thor.
and if Cher's watching, please let DeHoffer know, please, and somebody tag her in this video.
I'm kind of hoping Cher does it because what are you gonna say goodbye? How are you gonna say goodbye when Cher does sign your body? Like, what's your next like celebrity? What's number 2?
Matthew McConaughey, when he did the first time. Yeah,
You're
I
not
got
saying
it.
yes or no.
No.
You're just sitting there.
No, Matthew McConaughey, I'd like to meet him. But no, Superman, The Witcher.
Which one? Which
Oh,
one?
Henry Cavill or Cavill.
Yeah, he's next on my list after Cher.
He might have a restraining order
'Cause-
on you. You know, just
He might, but because I've already met Felicia Day and she was top on my list, but I've already got to meet her. I would love to see her again, but that's why I don't keep talking about hers because I already got to see her.
all right, Thor. How would you want to sign off?
Oh, I would say whatever role-playing game stuff you have, take care of it because it'll be
Definitely.
it'll be worth something down the road. Trust me.
Facts.
And
Always buy 2.
always buy
Always buy
two.
2. Yeah.
You will not regret it. And then also, whatever you're doing next year, when the new Lord of the Rings comes out on Amazon, you should cancel it and watch it. It's going to be epic.
Wait. They're making a series of the Lord of the Rings?
Where have you been? You didn't know that? It's been in development for like 6 years. Yeah.
He's been too busy trying to watch Venom.
Amazon paid $250 million just for the rights of the movie. And they're spending anywhere from $100 to $150 million per season on Lord of the Rings. And it's got like a blockbuster cast, and it's the first season's coming out this year. And
So it's going to be like the next Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
Oh, it's going to be more than that.
it's going to be huge.
Mark
So
is already
I guess I'm
obsessed with
getting
those
Amazon
movies.
Prime.
He quotes the movie with verbatim, and
movie?
he knows Lady Vladimir's monologue by heart.
What movie?
In place, Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
In place of a lord, you would have a queen, more powerful.
no,
Yada,
the
yada,
best
yada.
one comes
it's
from
even-
The Hobbit when the simple acts of kindness and love keep evil at bay. That is the absolute best.
Well, I think what's really cool about this, in addition to the money and everything they're doing, is the Tolkien family gave them a period of time on the timeline to play with.
Oh.
And it's after The Hobbit, but before The Lord of the Rings. So it's the window right between both of those where these series are going to take place.
You know, that would have been great like an hour and 14 minutes ago to talk about that because I have a whole spiel we can talk about. You know what, guys? Episode, whatever the hell the next episode is, that's what we're going to talk about. Thor, you've now been committed to the next episode.
That's right.
Draco too, because I want to hear his his funny end jokes on Lord of the Rings. But we're gonna go ahead and sign off because we're at the people have lost attention about an hour ago. So This has been another session. Let's go ahead and sign off with
I'm DeHoffrin.
and.
The one
I'm-
and only Draco.
Okay, now and.
I'm Thor.
Chaz, you got to point to the right. You got to point to the right for Thor.
I did. I pointed
Down.
right, and then I pointed down, and then you talked. See, I'm gonna get the fingering done right.
That's what she said.
I can't even
Innuendos.
see. I can't even see. I can't see you're pointing.
Well, I would say at this time that you guys have gotten smarter because the party's gaining experience points. We'll just say you got some experience points. And just remember,
One.
folks.
Hey, we did get smarter. I learned a lot about
Venom?
D&D and campaigns.
We learned a lot about Venom.
Yeah,
No, well,
Venom.
no.
That's one experience point there. You know what's coming out in June.
Yep.
We learned that Draco rode the short bus to school is what we learned from him.
But
But me and Chaz rode the same bus though. So what are you saying?
I have rode
Here's-
the short bus, and I have
Here's a
funny story
trivia.
about that.
Here's a D&D trivia question. Since you talked about that, Chuck, what was the very first creature ever fought and killed in Dungeons and Dragons? Ever.
Mind Flayer.
Goblin.
Beholder.
A
Bugbear.
scorpion.
I hate
Ooh.
this. I hate this. Now.
Gary Gygax was coming up with a rule set. And he wanted to test the combat, and he had his son and daughter go into a room and fight a scorpion. And in the treasure chest was a handful of copper pieces. So the first treasure was copper. The first monster ever killed was a scorpion. So if you ever end up in some weird trivia that comes up to it, there you go. You have the answer.
You know for a fact we're going to be playing a campaign. We're going to be level 20. We're going to be ending it. We're going to kill the last guy, which happens to be a scorpion in a paper mache costume. And then it's going to be a handful of copper. And then Thor's going to be all like, hey.
Hey.
And we're all going to hurt him. We're just going to hold him down and pink belly him. So, you have now gained experience points. The party has gained experience points because we now know that copper and scorpions. That's what it wants to be. And my sign is going to be, don't forget, kids, there's a difference between chaotic neutral and chaotic stupid. Have a good one.
Later, y'all.